Hey guys, I thought it was about time that I did a follow-up on the Spyderco Police 4. I've used and carried this knife as much as I possibly can because I really enjoy it, but in doing so I've sort of come to a few conclusions about it that I thought I would sort of follow up on, funnily enough. So first of all, just go over the basics. I've done a full review on this knife and all my thoughts on that still stand. However, as you use things as time goes on, you get extra thoughts. So first of all, what you're getting here is a 4-inch blade made of K390 steel. That is a pretty, it's a fairly rare steel. It's a tool steel, so it's like a non-stainless type steel that's, origins are for, probably heavy cutting of other metals. It's made by the Bowler company, same guys that make M390, but it is quite a different steel in performance. You get a really long thin blade, so this blade is on the 3mm thick side of things, so it's just on par with actually it's a little bit thinner than the Manix 2. It's a little bit thicker than the Delica, but only just, and it has just a very long straight edge tapering down to a nice fine tip, giving you a little bit of belly there as well at the front. Then the handle, of course, is a long G10 handle. The whole knife is fairly thin in the pocket. It carries relatively deep using the pocket clip there, and there's a lock-back construction, of course, with these stainless steel liners which are milled out as well. So, Police 4. This was like a long-running series of knives from Spyderco. I think the Police was one of their first, it wasn't their first model, which was the Worker. It might have even been their second or third model, and it's relatively unchanged, even still, in terms of its design from back in the late 80s. The Police 3 sat around for a long time, and this one only has a few real meaningful differences from the Police 3 in terms of design. So one thing is there used to be a bit of a swedge on the top there. That is now gone. The Police 3 also came in a stainless steel option. You could also get G10, but stainless steel. And they've also just changed the slight dimensions of things like this choil here, and just the handle tapering, things like that. That you really I find it quite hard to notice from looking at pictures, that's for sure. There was somewhat of a crown going down the spine there of the original Police 3. Or the Police 3, I guess the original Police is the Police, isn't it? So anyway, although it's not been changed too much in design, what's really happened by moving to this steel is it's gone from becoming what is really a Delica Max. So this is, if you think of a Delica, which actually I'll show some comparisons on screen right now. So this is the Delica with the Police 4, both open and closed, and then just the blade thickness is there as well. If you think of a Delica and then you think of the Endura as like the big brother of the Delica, this is like the big brother of the Endura. It doesn't come in FRN, it comes in G10 only, but very much a similar pattern, just with a couple of extra things like a forward finger choil here, and yeah, very basic overall knife. So rather than just being like a super Endura anymore, since they've moved to this steel, this has actually become quite the specialty knife, in my opinion. Seeing as it is, not an easy knife to wield. It's quite long and quite, there's, for smaller hands, you're going to struggle operating this one-handedly. You certainly can because of the choil. You can, flick it down, all that sort of stuff, or use the Stadio pants or whatever. But the size was always a little bit formidable, but now they've moved to this steel, it really is something else. And it's kind of what I would describe as, it's a real knife for a knife user enthusiast. So someone who wants to get a knife and actually use it and push it to the limits of what a knife can cut. And I'm not talking like folding pry bar, sort of cutting through doors or anything. I'm talking a knife that will perform almost like a folding chef's knife, and like a proper chef's knife is what you're going to get on this Police 4. However, tempered with that is, of course, the steel is non-stainless. So as you can see, perhaps I'll show some photos, it actually ends up getting a bit of a copperish kind of colour to it. It comes quite, quite silver and shiny, to use non-technical terms. But over time, it really does kind of, patina into sort of almost a goldy or coppery sort of colour. You can wash it and sort of steel wool it back and stuff from time to time, but yeah, you're eventually going to be fighting a losing battle against patina. So you've got this really high performance knife that isn't particularly high performance in terms of rust resistance. What it is high performance in, of course, is the steel's ability to not even only cut for a long time. My cut tests on K390 are very positive, and it's a really excellent steel. But the thing about K390 is that it can hold really quite steep angles for a long time, and against adverse conditions as well. So that's what I found from sharpening and using this knife for a long time. Right now this knife's wearing a toothy angle, a toothy finish, which means that I stopped at the 600 grit diamond stone and then just stropped it with a Starkey sharp paste. And so it makes for a knife that is particularly sharp, as I'll be showing in some demos probably now and most likely throughout the video. A knife that is particularly sharp, probably about as sharp as I've been able to get a knife, but also something that will hit a chopping board. It'll even I've been cutting up boxes before and it's hit the cement and it hasn't done too badly on that edge. Just a little touch up on the strop and it's back to how it was. Something like Maximet, for example, has nowhere near the level of toughness that this still has. Yeah, it'll hold its edge for ages longer, of course, but that's Maximet. This is definitely a good compromise between absolute super max edge retention, but also not having to baby it too much with what you cut. So I guess the only thing is you're going to want to cut all these really fancy things, but then you're going to have to take care of it. So I think from doing this, they've made what was probably already a slightly too large for most folks' knife. They've probably made it a bit nichey, like even more so. For people who really want to get something and just see what they can do to the edge, try things on it. See if you can get it to 10 degrees, see what it does. This is at 17 right now. I have no doubt it could go to 15 quite happily. Who knows from there? It's just my Lansky can't really do 15, but it is a knife for a knife lover, and a knife lover in terms of actually someone who likes having it in hand and cutting, because in hand it's positive. It's certainly positive and easy to use in hand and no worries at all. It's quite a thin handle, but for the sort of cuts I foresee you be doing, and if you keep it really, really sharp, you're not going to be having that much resistance against you anyway, because it is going to be gliding through most things, absolutely gliding. So I've really developed a really strong love for this knife since I've had it. It's definitely in my top 3. It's one of my favorites. It's really something different, and it's interesting because as bland as it looks, it's a super bland looking knife. It doesn't even have the deep carry pocket clip. It's not particularly amazing in terms of weight and size and pocketability, but without all the normal sort of stuff that we knife fellows fuss about, in terms of just being a pure good knife, it's really, really something else. So I thought I'd just spend today's video just doing a bit of a love letter to the Spyderco Police 4. It truly is excellent. I'll just be running up some more size comparisons, more footage and whatnot, but yeah, it's something else. Its fit and finish is great. In terms of negatives, as I've noticed, there is a tiniest bit of lock rock. Like just that, it doesn't ever feel like the lock's going to come out, but it's not got that cold steel triad lock level. You probably can't even see that right now, but you can just feel that light click when you do it. A lot of locksbacks will do it, except for the cold steel ones. So yeah, that's probably the one thing I've noticed. Another thing I would have loved to have a finger choil here. Sorry, not a sharpening choil here would have been great, especially for a steel that in my mind is designed to be sharpened and toyed with and played with. Yeah, you can get something just fine, but as you can see, I've sort of accidentally recurved it just a little bit from chickening out too close to here. Very, very slight, but I chicken out too close to this part, so this has actually probably got less sharpening time in the long term than the rest of the blade. So I would have really loved that, and that's probably the main sort of knock, and really something I would suggest to Spyderco do is add that sharpening choil there, because it would really maximize the fun you can have with this knife and with this great steel. But as for everything else, it's got good jimping, it's got just fine pocket clip. The knife design is just fine, and really for getting what is a proper super steel, I know it's a really cheesy term, but a proper super steel in your hand for about, 170 bucks or something, I think it's a great deal. And if this sort of thing suits you, and this sort of thing is what you're after in your knives, even more so than the Maximet and the Manix 2 and Maximet, this is the knife that I think you'd want if you want like a true, I guess, race car. One of my viewers and another YouTuber, Big Brown Bear, says it's like a race car knife. It really is. It's just, it will do the one thing it's designed to do, which is slice. It will do that really well in adverse conditions. Excellent knife. Great job, Spyderco. I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye, guys.